how can we have a biblical mission and purpose without somehow rescuing someone?
That's the rescue. And that's a picture of the disaster of fatherlessness. The home blew apart. And just as he's getting his feet under him, another bomb hits it.
Today we'll be talking to Kids Outdoor Zone COO Rick Magee about what it means to be a rescuer.
Man, a kid without a dad in the home, there are some losses that he just can't get around. No one is putting his arm around him at night saying, buddy, I believe in you. Buddy, I love you.
In Job 29, he lists 9 traits of masculinity. One of those is being a rescuer to the fatherless. You will walk away with one simple way to start rescuing fatherless boys.
One of the most powerful things my mom did was she worked hard to put
Hey guys, I'm really excited to have my friend Rick Magee on here. We were just together in Alabama a couple weeks ago, and he actually extended a hunting invitation in Virginia. And I don't know what my problem is. I feel like I'm declining all these invitations because I've got such a busy schedule. But it was great to hang out with him anyway. Anyway, Rick, it's always great to hang out with you, man. How you doing, brother?
Man, Jim, I'm doing great. It's good to be with you, buddy.
Yeah, it's. I was telling our producer today. I said, "Oh, this will be an easy one because when you talk to friends, there's no pressure. You're just hanging out with a buddy." So I appreciate you. But hey, Rick, why don't you take a few minutes? They know that you're from rural Mississippi. You know, they know that you're raised by a single mother. You're the middle son of 3 boys. But tell us your story, man. Give our guys some backstory on your life.
Sure, man. Thanks a lot for the opportunity. So yeah, single mom, middle boy, grew up playing football. Kind of some of the coaches in that arena rescued me a little bit. But the real guy that came along for me was a pastor that showed up at our little country church. He was a middle linebacker for Mississippi College, and we were his first church out of college. His name is Alan Hawkins. And my little fatherless umbilical cord went, at 9 years old, he was a man's man, and he paid attention to me, gave me some affirmation, and in many ways, spiritually, emotionally rescued me, and it was powerful. Years later in life, my wife and I, after we got married, went to go see them where they lived at the time in New Mexico, and it was awesome. We were sitting there eating and having a good time together. I hadn't seen them in 10 years or more, and my wife Martha looked at his wife Gail and said, "Are you seeing this right now?" And they were laughing. We said, "What?" "You two act, your mannerisms, you're just alike." And I had picked up so many things from him in the way that I would respond in sadness or in laughter or in joy. That impressionable age of 9 to 13 just made a huge impact on my life. But before that, I got into forestry and forest products, went to Mississippi State University, got my degree there, had a run with Georgia Pacific International Paper, some of those guys for about 14 years. And God radically called me in the ministry, Jim. It was like a vision, dude. It was come, you will follow me. And it was beautiful and good. So called my pastor. I'd done a plant startup for Georgia Pacific in Virginia a few years earlier. And we lived in Alabama at the time. And so we called that pastor in Virginia and said, "Brother, I just want to let you know God's called me in the ministry. We're trying to figure it out." And he was wiping chill bumps off because they had grown to 1,400 people. He needed an executive pastor, men's pastor, and God was just putting it all together. It was beautiful. And he did put it together. I came back to Virginia, here where I live now, served him in that church for 14 years,
Wow.
14 or 15 years, and just had a great run there. Saw a lot of men in men's ministry, men's Bible studies, saw some men get saved and step up and lead their families. It was just a great run. And then, years after that, I met TJ Graney in that time. I met TJ Graney about 11 years ago. I was speaking at men's conferences about men's ministry, outdoor ministry specifically. He came to Wildfire Weekend over here in Lynchburg, and we met, and God just put us together. Within 3 or 4 years of that, 5 years of that, God called me over to KOZ, and I've been doing that ever since.
Oh, that's awesome. So you said a couple things that really impacted me. You said that you latched on to this pastor because you had a fatherless umbilical cord. Your fatherless umbilical cord latched on. Can you dig deeper into that? Help us understand what that meant.
Jim, I'm probably preaching to the choir here. You guys, your men, if you don't know, man, a kid without a dad in the home, there are some losses that he just can't get around. No one is putting his arm around him at night saying, buddy, I believe in you. Buddy, I
Mm,
love you. And as he grows and does something special, achieves something, he's just counting on some friends, or he's
mm,
counting on these guys that he doesn't even know if they care about him saying, good play, boy. You're the one that ought to be in the game. That's coming from a crowd, not from a man that is committed to loving and shoring him up, undergirding him, giving him a platform of peace and rest and joy. And Alan Hawkins was that guy for me. I think we're all looking to be fathered, and when that father is in place, it just adds some steadiness to your ship. And man, it was just a beautiful picture. And we're picking up on how to respond to things, right?
mm-hmm.
How do we respond when things don't go our way? And when I see a man as a young boy, when a young boy sees a man and he's, oh wow, he didn't just jump back in anger when that person kind of snapped at him, or he did, right? He
Mm-hmm.
gets informed on how a man acts,
Mm.
and he tends to reproduce that. Well, Alan Hawkins, he showed me a lot of godly manhood, biblical manhood. About He told me truth when it was hard. I wanted to be, you can relate to this. I was screaming with a 5.2 40-yard dash, right? I mean, I thought, dude, I was fast
Time you
as
with a
lightning.
calendar. Time you with a calendar.
Right, right. And he said, I said, he said, what position you want to play? And I said, oh, I definitely want to be a running back.
You're a
Right.
lineman, buddy.
Yeah. He said, we probably got to work on your stance.
That's funny.
And
He was tactful.
yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely. But
well,
but he said, man, you're strong. You'll be good right here. It was beautiful.
you talked about something I thought was really interesting. So people don't know this about me. I don't share it too much on the podcast just because it doesn't fit. But my parents were divorced on my 13th birthday, and so but I was never a a child of a single mom. Let me explain. So my dad moved about 5 miles away. He was the high school coach. He was the high school teacher where I was at. He coached. He was my one of my coaches all 4 years of high school football. He was my varsity baseball coach. My dad was so engaged, so engaged. I mean, the divorce almost made him engage more. So I would
Wow.
never have considered myself a child of a single mom. I still to this day don't, because I had a dad who was in the game the whole time. But technically, I guess you could say I was. But it's really interesting. You talked about your dad going to your sports and these things. And that is so important. That is so vitally important for a dad to show up, because I was, as a young boy, you as a young boy, I was asking questions that my mother could not answer. And I'm not talking about, where do babies come from? We know the stork comes and delivers the pollen. But what we
Right.
don't know, so as a young boy, Rick, what are the questions that you were asking inherently, subconsciously, that only a man can answer? What were the questions these boys that you work with, what are the questions they just have to have answered by a man?
Am I loved?
Oh, good. Yeah, yeah.
Do you love me? Or does someone love me? Um, do I have what it takes? Am I good enough for this? And Jim, if I'm honest with you, in my hardest moments, even as an adult, and with some, I mean, I've got some W's on my side. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they're not all wins, but I've got a wife of 35 years that loves me and I love her. I've got three boys that I've enjoyed and celebrated that are now men, that we have a lot of joy together. So I've got some W's. I felt Jesus move in my life. I've seen him move men. I mean, it is beautiful stuff. And in my worst moments, I can still say, do I have what it takes?
Hey, you know what? I still ask that question. It was really funny. I had a guy on the podcast recently who's, I would say, famous. He's famous, and he came on the podcast. It was so funny. So here are these 50-something-year-old guys, and he's a phenomenal author. And I bring my book Dialed In to the podcast oftentimes, obviously because I want to sell more copies, but it was funny how he responded. He said, "Oh yeah, well my book is a USA Today bestseller, and we did all those things too." And so it was so funny because he instantly wanted to say, "I've got what it takes too." Like and we're even as adult men, we're saying, "Hey, I'm going to flex a little bit, let you know I've got what it takes." Well, I'm going to flex back. So it really never goes away, right? So
Right.
I would say it's important all throughout our life to have men affirm us. Like, like I try to
Amen.
affirm you and you're a cohort there, TJ, like you guys are awesome. You guys are rock. Let's go get this thing. And so you guys are walking in and then you do the same for me. You're one of us,
Thank you.
man. I mean, and I think you have men mutually, that mutually work together towards a common end, and we are telling each other, yeah, you got it, you're supposed to be here, you're supposed to be here. But when these young boys they're formulating all these things about themselves, it's critical. You alluded to coaches, your pastor. It's not just one voice they need.
Amen.
Well,
You know,
here's a question I have for you. For our single moms listening, we have a lot of single moms listening, and they really want to get their boys engaged with other men because they know there's something lacking. What, even as good as these moms are, what what can't a mom give to her boys?
well, I can give you the overarching one.
Yeah.
She can't tell her son how to be a man.
Mm.
She can't show him how to be a man. One of the most powerful things my mom did was she worked hard to put men in our lives. If that guy when I was 9 to 13 called and said, "Hey, I want to take Rick hunting," or "I want to take him to the Mississippi College football game 2 hours south of us," if it was possible, it was yes.
Yeah.
And she knew we needed godly men. We need men. If my uncle was cutting firewood, she had us with him. She was very intentional about putting men with us as boys. She embraced football. She embraced everything that would put us in the presence of men. She got it. She understood we needed men in our lives.
Well, that's powerful. Moms, if you're listening, you're a single mom. I hope you heard Rick. That's so important. Now, moms are very important. They're incredibly important. I am a self-proclaimed mommy's boy. Talked to my mom on the phone. Love my mom. Oh my gosh, love my mom. But um, I just lost my thought on thinking about my mom. Oh
That's a
my gosh,
lot of
I'm
love.
such a mommy's boy. Okay, here we go. As important as moms are, and I'm very close to my mother, very, very close to my mother. As important as moms are, we live in a world, unfortunately, and you know this, Rick, academia and Hollywood, I will call them out until the day I die. They continue to pollute our culture with a lie that says men are somehow toxic and are not needed. Let's move beyond this subjective opinions and let's talk about objective facts. What are the facts that surround this issue that men are vitally important to the formation of children?
So there studies have been done over the years, and I haven't seen any in the last year or two, but incarcerate when a boy or any child grows up in a fatherless home, and let me add this: not related to this research, but there are many boys that are in a home that is just unfathered,
Yes.
not fatherless. Dad is got his own wounds, got his own struggles, not sure, maybe even super busy, has a business or has a demanding career, and they're just pulled back from their son's life
Hmm.
at a time when a son desperately needs to get something from his dad, right? And so, but if you just take the statistics that are measured of fatherlessness, dad's not in the home, the incarceration rate, the drug abuse rate, premarital pregnancies, um, even rape. These it's high school dropout rates,
Yep.
substance abuse. I think I said. I mean, it is staggering, Jim. If you, I don't have those numbers in front of me right now, but it's like 20 times more likely, 5 times more likely, 10 times more likely. And if it were a disease, if it were something that would was creating cancer, I would say it is.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
we we would, politics around this would just be ripped away and we'd go fix it as a society. But it is it's a an issue of our culture, and nobody wants to take on this idea that people should stay married. And dad just being in the home is better than him not,
Yeah.
short of obviously safety and welfare. But it's a big deal. The statistics are staggering for when a dad leaves home. I asked a school teacher one time, and probably 15 years ago, and now I ask them every time I meet them, how long does it take you on the first day of school in the fall to know which kids in your classroom are from a broken home? I mean, it's immediate, Jim.
Oh,
They
yeah.
pop an answer somewhere between a day and a week and a half. It's never more 2 weeks. In the first week,
Yep.
they know a kid by his behavior who comes from a fatherless home. And so it's staggering. It's apparent. It is factual. You can't get around it.
Yeah, and this is objective truth. This is U.S. Census Bureau. This is stuff this is not made up academia, media. This is the real deal. So it's real, and here's a true statement. We see this today. I'm so excited, Rick. I mean, because of your work, our work, and other organizations that partner with us, we are seeing more young men in churches today than women for the first time in history. So we're seeing
Beautiful.
some cool stuff. There is a movement. We are calling out the lie. These young men are seeing the lie. Our culture is seeing the lie. I really believe, and I know you do too. As men go, so goes the culture. But here's something I want to address. You addressed dads who are in the home and present. I want to say this. You can be a father who's in the home and be a male. A man does not defer to other men. He partners with them. Males defer. So if you're a man who's physically present but you're absent in every other area, your children will pay the price for that. Rick, you want to embellish?
Yeah, it's I think mine and your generation, I'm praying it's getting better.
Yeah.
But Robert Lewis, our cohort and
Oh,
fellow friend,
yep.
Robert Lewis speaks to this very eloquently. And he would say staying in the home was better, but there's this massive loss when dad's not engaged.
Yes.
And some men would even say, I wonder, it hurt so much that he didn't engage emotionally. I wonder if it would have been better if he had been gone. But the statistics say it's better he's there.
Agreed.
And but the change from being there and not engaged to engaging is massive, massive, because now a boy starts building that self-confidence. If I'm okay, somebody does care for me. I'm sure you, and believes in me. I'm sure you've read the book, like Willard Harley wrote a book called His Needs, Her Needs. Great marriage
Oh,
book,
Bill
kind of
Harley.
affect.
I can tell you the top three on both right now. Love
Beautiful.
that book. I got a funny story about Bill.
So So he makes the case there that you're contributing. I think he uses, there's two of them out there, checking account or a tank of
Love bank.
love, the love bank.
Love bank.
And so you're either making deposits
Mm-hmm.
or you're withdrawing all the time. Well, the problem you got in your life, beautifully, not the problem, the beautiful thing you got in your life, you got a dad depositing all the time.
Yes.
And when you needed to be corrected, rightfully so, even if he didn't do it perfectly, his withdrawal from your love bank was there was plenty in the bank,
Yeah.
right? He could take a $5 pull when he's got $100,000 balance. Jim, I grew up with, I don't know what my balance was, but it was low.
Wow.
I mean, it just was. There's no way a boy that doesn't have a man, and the only thing he's hearing is these men in the drugstore when he comes or goes talking about boys of this culture, or this the things informing him today on the internet of how ugly he is or how uninformed and ill-equipped he is. The commercials that of a kid holding up a tire wrench, not knowing what it is. He's called an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And Satan will use that voice over and over and over to inform him he's an idiot. And so that boy, that empty tank for me is what Alan Hawkins began filling.
Yes.
Started saying, whoa, I can take some hits. I can take some bad experiences or some correction by good men and know they still care, because there's a guy that did care for me and I know he does. And so that tank analogy, or that bank analogy, the account withdrawals and the account deposits, man, for a boy's soul, that applies, dude. It applies. And so many boys are so empty,
Mm-hmm.
so empty. We had we'll talk a little bit about our ministry at some point, but we had a group that met here in Lynchburg. Actually, there's a church here locally, and they started our KOZ group. And the first morning, Saturday morning, all they did, Jim, was they showed boys how to sharpen knives, showed them how to whittle sticks. They did work on some rod and rails, and then they used their sticks they whittled to cook their own hot dog and marshmallow for lunch, right? So a simple, cool morning. Well, they had a bunch of boys from the community, several of them unfathered. And Jim, three of those boys got in the car with their grandmother, their aunt, their mom, and they told one of them, the exact words were, "Grandma, this was the best day of my life."
Yeah. Yeah.
All they did was whittle a stick and cook a hot dog, Jim. I mean, that's a boy that's on zero,
He's
right?
on zero. He's bankrupt.
He's bankrupt. And when a man deposited a $10 bill in there or a $100 bill of equity, saying, dude, you did a good job with that knife. Man, you cook an awesome hot dog. You cook that marshmallow just right. Anything to affirm them is powerful. It is music for their soul. And then flip that around you. How easy is that to do? How, for a group of men
So
just to
easy.
do that? We're
So
not
easy.
asking them to do psychology and do any kind of therapy, although it is, we don't call it that,
Yeah.
because it's so easy.
Well, okay. So here's a question for you. And I agree 100%. Alan Hawkins, right? What I'm hearing you tell me he rescued you. Is that a true statement? Would you go as far as to say he was a rescuer?
Absolutely.
How would you define a rescuer?
Um, Someone that sees a deep need and takes action and meets that need.
Mm. Well, let me read something to you that really impacted me. So, the women get Proverbs 31. Well, if you're a woman, you get Proverbs 31. Here's what a woman is. Read Proverbs 31. But nobody else ever tells the men what the men get. Well, the men get Job 29. In Job 29, Job, the ultimate rescuer, lists 9 qualities of a man. And now I'm going to read this to you. This is Job 29, 11 through 17. This is just one quality. You ready? This is one of the
Ready.
9. He says, "For when the ear heard, it called me blessed, and when the eye saw, it gave witness of me, because I delivered the poor who cried for help, and the orphan who had no helper. The blessing of the one ready to perish came upon me, and I made the widow's heart sing for joy. I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My justice was like a robe and a turban. I was eyes to the blind. I was feet to the lame. I was a father to the needy. I investigated the case which I did not know. I broke the jaws of the wicked and snatched the prey from his teeth." Now that is a man, that is a rescuer. Is being a rescuer to the fatherless truly, would you say that this is, if you're going to make a list of masculine traits, where would you put rescuer? Would rescuer be on the list? Does a man have to rescue to be on that list?
Wow. What a great question. I think we talk a lot about men needing a mission.
Yes.
And Jim, I got to think half the missions in this world are rescues.
Yes.
And maybe all of them. I'm just thinking out loud, right? I mean, if you go share the gospel with the guy at Hardee's and he gets saved,
We call that Carl's Jr. out here, guys.
Carl's Jr.
I just want to
He
clarify
is
for the guys.
he has literally rescued that guy.
Yes.
He's facilitated Jesus, taking him out of the grips of hell. I mean, that's a rescue. I think it would have to be in
Well,
there.
help me out here. Maybe I'm wrong. I just believe God has made men to have a sword to fall on and a hill to die on. And that sword we fall on and that hill to die on is mission and purpose. And how can we have a biblical mission and purpose without somehow rescuing someone? I mean, how? I mean, I don't know how we can do it, Rick. I'm just spitballing with you right now.
Well, I'm an old church guy. Yeah, I told you I served in a large Baptist church for 14
Yep.
years. And I think about the things in church we do that are missional. So a mission trip
Mm-hmm.
overseas, that's a rescue to those people. A food pantry is a rescue to the poor who need food. Um, a children's ministry, I think we could criticize sometimes as entertainment,
Yeah.
but a healthy church is going to always bring Jesus, bring the gospel, bring
Yes.
the hope of glory. Um, one thing that really spoke to this is, and about men in particular, you know what one of the biggest ministries of men in the church today is? What is actually happening in denominations like Southern Baptist, Methodist, the big denominations? What's actually happening, Jim, that men are participating in is disaster relief. And the men find that place a place of community.
Yep.
They can do it together. They love putting their hands on something, and you're onto something with rescue. And they know they're rescuing. They know they're in a mission that matters, that something they're doing is making transformational change. And it's a rescue. I think that's the ingredient. Um, and being most hypercritical, it's a place they don't have to share their faith, maybe, or they're uncomfortable talking. So men are doers,
Yeah.
right? Let's go do something. And so, but disaster relief being the number one men's ministry, matter of fact, most in Southern Baptist circles, most statewide men's ministry leaders are leading their disaster relief programs because they're so intertwined.
So, I didn't know that. We don't have tornadoes out here or hurricanes. We just have earthquakes, and those don't happen. Usually those aren't a big deal.
Right.
So you keep using the word disaster relief. Okay, I'm gonna turn the corner on that a little bit. Do you think that fatherlessness is a disaster?
Unmitigated
Right?
disaster. This just happened. I love this. There's a guy that supports our ministry, KOZ, provides us a 300-acre farm. We host our summer camp there, 2 hunting camps. It's beautiful. Do a retreat there for our men. It's an amazing place. And he is a business owner that is engaged deeply in the disaster that's going on in North Carolina right now. It's got work teams down there. It's beautiful. It's his heart, right? Well, he asked, we had a retreat scheduled right while they've got a team serving down there. And he said, do you think your men, instead of doing the retreat, would want to serve as a team helping these flood victims? And I said, buddy, maybe, maybe. And some of them could volunteer for that. But these men have been in disaster relief for boys all year. Some of them have been looking forward to getting away for this weekend with just other men from other KOZ groups, other churches, and share story, lick wounds, tell their stories, be heard and loved on. That we're doing disaster relief on your farm on that retreat. And thank God you're doing what you're doing. But, buddy, I think we're doing important work. And sure enough, he agreed and we did it and it was beautiful.
It's interesting, Rick, as you're speaking. When a flood hits or a tornado hits, or an earthquake hits or a fire hits, those are I'm going to call those geographical disasters. When fatherless hits, that's a generational disaster.
Wow.
So we need to really, part of our problem here and part of what we're doing with Men in the Arena, and I think what you guys are doing is we are trying to change generational disaster, because you get a boy without a dad, and that boy is going to grow up without rescuers in his life, he's going to raise up the next generation of ruined young men and women because of his wound and his brokenness. And so I think there's something to this here, right? So, well, let's talk about this real quick. Let's talk about what you guys do, because you guys are really interesting. So what does KOZ stand for, and who is it really a ministry to?
So KOZ stands for Kids Outdoor Zone. Leads to some confusion sometimes because we're a men's ministry where men in the church train, they get the curriculum, and they start a once a month Saturday morning ministry to boys. And they take boys outside using shooting, fishing, hunting, hiking, camping. Beautiful, beautiful, just relationship experience, skill training, teaching boys life skills, teaching them coping skills. The outdoors, God's creation does some of that with us and for us, right? If you put the marshmallow over a fire and you don't want it burned, there's no making up for it when it burns,
No.
right? You don't get to hit reset on the game station and if you fall and break your leg in the woods, you got to figure it out.
Yeah.
If you can't climb the tree, you need to get stronger. There's no what am I trying to say? When something is given to you, or you can
you're
just
not
do
entitled. There's no entitlement in these
entitled.
outdoors.
That's
Yeah.
right. Creation is this beautiful, unforgiving, and with men in the circle, they can guide these boys through skill training, through life lessons. Incredible. And to tie what we do to what we just talked about, the disaster and the rescue. This just happened a couple of years ago, Jim. We had the ministry of KOZ is once a month at the local church, right? Well, once a summer in the Virginia region, we invite KOZ groups to come to a summer camp. And this one boy showed up, delightful blonde headed. You can picture him, right? 9 years old, dusty blonde hair, freckles, smiling, sweet kid. Mom drops him off. He's from another church, so I don't really know his story. Well, one of my older boys, 15 years old, 16 years old, named Matthew, solid kid, been in KOZ for years, fathered in the home. He's one of my leaders, solid kid. And I have Matthew as a junior leader. He's a lieutenant over a group of boys. And he got this little blonde headed boy, Nicholas. Well, halfway through summer camp, Matthew throws his hands up in the air and walks away. He walks literally off the camp. Well, dad comes to see me and says, "Hey, Matthew's taking a break. He's done with Nicholas. Done. He is, Nicholas has tormented his group nonstop. Matthew's been a good soldier, trying not to tattle on him, trying to coach him, which is what we coached him. You know, that's how you do it. And when you need help, let us know." Well, I pulled Nicholas in, had consequences, blah, blah, blah. That night we were sharing the gospel, and Matthew and Nicholas were buddied up off around the campfire for hours afterwards. And that night later, I'm in the main lodge. The junior leaders come in with Nicholas, sit him in the chair. I'm saying, "Oh no, what's he done now?" Right? These junior leaders, 5 of them, 16 to 18 years old, circle him up and lay hands on him, Jim,
Wow.
and pray over him. You know why they did that, Jim? Because they've seen us men do that to
Whoa.
other boys. Matthew comes over, almost stirred up. Matthew comes over later after they're done and says, "I found out why Nicholas was so upset and is giving us trouble. On the way to camp, mom told Nicholas that she was going out on a date for the first time since leaving his dad." Jim, all he was doing was all this energy that he didn't know what to do with. He
Yeah.
was tormenting the hell out of these kids.
Mm-hmm.
And he just didn't know. And then Matthew had the grace and the strength of seeing other men and had a model. This is how we take care of this stuff. And you know what even tips his story off? Nicholas got saved the next morning. He came into my at my table at breakfast, said, "Mr. Rick, I need to talk to you." And so we pulled his hand. He said, "I need Jesus." And
Wow.
unbelievable. Unbelievable. That's the rescue. And that's a picture of the disaster of fatherlessness. The home blew apart. And just as he's getting his feet under him, another bomb hits it. And then these disaster relief gang, we call KOZ,
Yeah.
men and older boys sweep in and restore his house and bring Jesus in, who is the ultimate healer. Is it any wonder it's in our DNA to do this? Jesus' one mission on this planet was to come seek and save the lost. That's a rescue. The DNA of a man was imprinted from Jesus.
Well, I believe men and women are different. And I believe they're different not only physically, but inherently. And one of the areas where God has made men differently than women is he has made men to be rescuers. That's how he's
I
made
believe
us.
that.
You made a comment not gonna push on, but I'm gonna clarify. You said these men and older boys, and I would argue these older men and younger men, because what Matt and his
No,
buddies did, boys don't do that, men do that. Now he may be younger, but that I'm listening to that going, dang, that's a man right there. I
you're
don't
not
care if
wrong.
he's 15. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and you can tell him that. That's pretty freaking impressive. Okay, so I'm not like Mr. Mathematician. But with KOZ, you're doing a once a month meeting. It's outside. I'm assuming 6 hours. Is it 6 hours? 6 hours?
Yeah,
8 hours?
guys start at 8, 7:30, 8-ish, and you want to go all the way to lunch, feed them a hot dog or a bacon wrapped deer steak. It's one of my favorites. And then or a burger or whatever, have the grill going. And then you wrap up with a conversation and wrap up around 1 o'clock.
So you're talking 6 hours. I mean, so
Right.
and you're saying 6 hours. You didn't say once a week. You said once a month, right?
Once a month.
So 6 hours once a month. Is there anything in between, or is it straight 6 hours once a month?
Usually, almost all of our groups have a meeting somewhere in the month where they plan that outing together. Now, a few of the groups have been doing it long enough that they do some of the months by email, like, "Hey, you get pick up the dogs, the hot dogs, you pick up the bows or the fishing rod and reels? Can we and do all the logistics by email? But we don't encourage that. We think the men are better together. And so, honestly, our favorite is for them to establish an ongoing Bible study that meets once a week, but that's up to them. And then one of those, the week before KOZ, they just plan their meeting at their Bible study
Yeah,
time.
and
But
we have you. I know that you have our Bible study materials on your website.
absolutely,
So okay, so once a month, how many weeks out of the year? 52, 50? I'm
12.
sorry. I'm sorry, 12. I've told you I'm great at math. So 12 meetings a year, once a month.
And here's where the stats come into this, Jim. Big Brothers Big Sisters did a study probably now 15 years ago, and they found out that if you give a kid a mentor, when it crosses the 4 hour mark, that's when that kid's decision making will start mimicking and modeling what he's seeing in his mentor. Now, we didn't know that when TJ started KOZ. It just made sense. You need some time,
Yeah.
right? And the once a month seems like almost anyone could pull that off in terms of demand on your schedule and still be on mission. What we found out after the fact is that's all it takes. I mean, you can change a boy's life. We hear from moms all the time. You are literally changing my son's life. I mean, he has gone from introvert or bully or a poser. He has gone from driving me crazy. He has gone from worrying me to death about how much electronics I'm to so looking forward to being with you, man. Mr. Tommy said this, Mr. Donnie said this. I just hear it all the time. And it's always the right answer. It's I can't thank you enough. We hear it over and over again.
That's really cool, man. So, I'm out here in the West, and I think KOZ, I'd love to see KOZ spread out here in the West. I know you got some stuff going on in the East. Man, you guys are doing a great job. Your movement continues to increase. I mean, you get 3 or 4 guys. How many guys do you need to start a chapter?
I think the average is probably 4 or 5. You get one man that can handle it. We'd start a group with the right one man, but he needs some partners. I mean, if something took his Saturday out like a death in the family
100%.
or a sickness, so ideally at least 2 or 3, but we've got groups with 10 or 15.
100%.
So, two
And
or
then,
three, you get 2 or 3 men and order the training.
so if I'm a man and I start this with 4 of my buddies, do I just have to wing it and fling it 12 times, or do you give us like a calendar? Here's what you do here. Here's what you do here.
Every month has a theme. We coach you in the training. First of all, you do a training. We tell you on Friday, pick your weekend on Friday night, fix a good meal for your wives or order it in. There's a short video for them to watch to understand why this is important. You're not, when you go out with your guns on your shoulder, you're not just going to play with the guys. You're going on a mission to pastor boys.
Mm.
And so they get it after that. And we get a lot of feedback about thank you for that piece. And then Saturday morning, you 5 guys would get back together, do the rest of the probably 6 hours of training. We go over fatherlessness, outdoors, why it matters, creation, and mentoring, why it matters, and then point all things to Jesus. It's the gospel. It's about the gospel. It's not just a club, it's a mission. And so that training, once you complete that training, you figure out a time and say, okay, we're going to meet the second Saturday of every month or the third Saturday of every month. And Jim, stick it. Don't deviate from that.
Yes.
That way it's on those single parents calendar. It's on your calendars for your wives, and you know when it is every time. And once you complete the training, you get the password to the curriculum. You jump into the curriculum, and if you're going to start in January, your group, you're going to see exactly what you're going to do. It's the theme for every month is laid out. I think January this year is survival, and show the boys how to. We give you a dozen or more ideas. Show the boys how to build shelters or have a survival expert come in. We give you a bunch of ideas. You craft the adventure for what you have resources for. And then you set your morning. You recruit the boys through the venues of your church. You can get rack cards from us. We help you with, we will coach you through all that, resource you through all that. And then in January, you get the boys invited and you go get them, go invite them. And then you meet in January, the second Saturday, and you have this beautiful time together. And then you plan on February and you plan March. And what happens over month after month after month, you start building these relationships that become life changing.
Well, what you've described is incredibly simple, but I want to be very careful to the men. These are kids without dads, a lot of them, not all of them. You cannot disappoint these kids. They've been disappointed all their life. So this is something that if you're going to commit to it, you need to jump in, all in, stay in.
We tell guys, if you can't see yourself doing this for 12 months, don't do it.
Yeah, you're just going to, I would say even longer than that, but yeah, that's really good. But so Rick, what's the best way for our guys to get a hold of you guys and apply for this? And guys, I want to tell you, man, we like to put our boots on the ground after every episode. So guys, if you're a guy who you're kind of bored with some of the things in the church, the ministries in the church, or it's not connecting with you or whatever, but you're an outdoorsman guy, this could be a way that's simple. It's once a month, and you could impact a dozen lives forever. You can take this, forget this geographical disaster. You can take a generational disaster and you can fix it before it ever happens if you go check these guys out. So where can they visit you?
www. Do people say that anymore?
No, they don't.
Anyway.
You must be over 50.
Right. Kids, KIDS, outdoor, ZONE, kidsoutdoorzone.com.
And it's on the World Wide Web.
Yeah, click start a group, and it doesn't put you into starting a group. The first 2 steps are just what we do and how it's done. And then if you're ready, when you're ready, reach out to us, fill out an info form on the website, reach out to us. We would love to help you and navigate this with you and your men.
Well, Rick, I appreciate you coming on, brother. I love what you're doing. Whenever a kid's in my presence, I stop and everything goes to that kid. They are so important. I mean, Jesus stopped for the children. I personally believe, and I say this all the time, a man never stands so tall than when he stoops to love a kid. Wow. Thanks for what you're doing, brother.
I'm going to probably quote you on that. If that's okay.
Quote Wes Stafford. I stole it from him. He was the president of Compassion International. So
beautiful. Hey, Jim, we appreciate you. I appreciate you personally. I love your energy. Love what you do. You're in a fight that matters. We can certainly try to stop the flow of broken men, of boys becoming broken men, but you're in the fight for the men that are broken. And I couldn't love you anymore for it. Thank you.
I appreciate it, man. We love what you guys are doing. And man, we're trying to shift a culture, buddy. That's why I connect with you and TJ. Let's forget our little regions. Let's go change a culture. Let's just change the tide of this thing. So, hey, God bless you, brother. Hopefully send some guys your way, and say hi to your wife, Martha, and appreciate her letting you do all this, because we know that beside every good man is a better woman.
That's right.
Have a great day, man.
All right, my friend.
Yep, you got it. Hey guys, if today's podcast inspired you, guys, would you please copy the link of this episode, shoot it over to a buddy. You guys can partner together and start a group for kids on your own. It'll be awesome. Until next time, feel the wet sand on the arena floor, hear the deafening roar of the crowd, taste the sweetness of victory, smell the stench of battle, get in the game, get dirty, grind it out, become a rescuer, and be a man.